as you can tell, I'm into pinball, pinball mayhem, all that kind of fun stuff. This is mainly how I know Ryan Ryan from with the Coin Op Carnival. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And is this still available for people to purchase?
Yeah, another good question. Thanks, Jeremy. Yeah, so I am the co-creator behind Coin Op Carnival. You can find Coin Op Carnival at coinopcarnival.com. And I illustrate the entire thing and co-write it with my very good friend and technical genius. His name is Nick Baldridge. And together we made that book that was in Jeremy's hands right there. It's a 64-page, full-color, fully illustrated publication about electromechanical amusement devices that were, manufactured prior to 1978, prior to the advent of printed circuit boards, and that new sort of technology at the time. And it talks about old pinball machines and old arcade games from the electromechanical era. So anything from, the late 30s up through the late 70s. So we have everything in there from an interview with the most prolific pinball designer of all time. His name is Wayne Nyans. A couple of game reviews in there. One's of a pinball game and one is of a flight simulator game called Space Pilot. So that was a really fun one to write. We also have technical segments and product spotlights. I highlighted the DVD documentary of the Musée Mécanique in San Francisco and of the Edward Zielinski collection, which is still open and running today. We also have other crazy things like papercraft models of the featured games that we reviewed and a letters column and all sorts of stuff. So it's jam-packed, full of information. I am just so proud of that. And to answer your question, yes, it is still available.
One of the other awesome things that since I follow you on Facebook is the neon sign stuff. That's really fascinating. Why don't you tell us about how you got started with that?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to. So neon sign design is something I never thought I'd have as a byline under my name. But in 2019, my wife and I were renovating our basement area, which you see behind me here. This was previously unfinished. And so we were putting up studs and drywall and electricity so that we could house our collection of pinball machines. And one of the things I really wanted was to have a neon sign in this game room, which is right in front of me, right there. And I designed my own sign. I went through just many, many iterations because I thought this is going to be expensive. I'm only going to do this one time in my life, so I want to make sure I get it right. And so I started looking around for a fabricator locally, and I found one. His name is Josh Goodacre, and he's been fabricating neon signs for well over 30 years. He's just an absolute master of neon. And I started talking to him pretty early on in the process when I was designing, starting to make quick sketches. And I would show them to him and I'd say, look, what do you think about this? Is this something that's possible? And he would talk me through what is possible, what's not, what's more expensive, what's less. And I'd kind of come back to him with another iteration of another design. And then he'd tell me, yeah, you've got like 18 steps of animation in here, and that's going to be a whole lot of money because every step of animation requires another transformer, and every transformer costs X amount of money. So we have these ways that we can make it a little bit cheaper, not only by lessening the amount of animated frames, but also they have these different types of animators, either a blinking, like on and off, or an alternating, like one then the other, or multi-step, like you could do a 4-step animation, and then they have like mechanical animators. So, we got to talk about all that stuff, and including like, specialty colors of neon, like there's red, but then there's ruby red, and each of those costs a little bit of different money and have a little bit of a different look to them. So I just got absolutely educated in neon design from working with him. And after I showed him maybe, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 different designs, we were texting back and forth at that point. And I told him, look, I think I get it now. So if you don't want to see the rest of these, I don't have to show them to you, but I'm going to keep designing for a little bit before I say, hey, this is the one. And he told me, no, keep sending these my way. I've been designing or fabricating neon signs for over 30 years, and I'm finally excited about making something. So we just formed a really great relationship, a really great working relationship. And then even before my sign was fabricated and completed, I got contacted by a fellow pinball collector in a neighboring state because I was posting this stuff online. I was posting it on Pinside because I had a basement build thread, and then this design of the neon sign became part of that. So I got contacted out of the blue, and this person said, hey, I want you to do this for me. And that was the last thing I ever expected to happen when I was designing my basement. And so I talked to Josh, and, I said, what do you think? And so we started working together on this guy's sign. And that led to more work, which led to more work. More people wanted their own custom neon signs. And I love it. It's so fun to design these things. And once you're in front of them, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's like luminous artwork. It's so captivating. It's hard to even look away. So I love the fact that I'm able to collaborate with Josh and make these signs together. And so he doesn't like designing signs, but he likes fabricating. I could never fabricate, but I love designing them. And so we make a really great team. And on top of that, Josh is just an incredibly stand-up guy, somebody that I'm so proud to work with. He's not only really good at what he does, he's also just super, super honest. And we've run into a couple things where something will happen with the design, like we expect it to be a particular color, and this one color is not what it should be. And lesser fabricators would say that's good enough, but Josh is like, no, it's not what it's supposed to be. Like, we got to change this. And I'm like, dude, this is eating into your budget. Like, I get it. It's not perfect, but he's like, no, we got to make it what it's supposed to be. So I just have nothing but good things to say about Josh and our relationship. So if anybody's interested, you can check out our portfolio at tinyurl.com/Clayacre. That's both of our names jammed together, Claytor and Goodacre. So tinyurl.com/CLAYACRE.
All right. And the final thing I really want to talk to you about, which isn't really my area of expertise as far as the size of this particular object, are watches. And this really surprised me. The first one surprised me, but the second one really kind of blew me away. Why don't you tell me about that?
Sure. So, I think all of us have been trying to figure out how to deal with the pandemic in our own personal way. And one of the ways that I dealt with it was was starting to research a new hobby. And that new hobby was watch collecting. And if you think about it, it's kind of like pinball, not in terms of size, but if you think about the mechanics of watches, it's not motors, but springs and cogs, and everything's moving around mechanically inside this tiny little body to keep track of time. And on top of that, they can be really interestingly designed and artistic timepieces. So I see it as kind of similar to pinball design. There's mechanics, there's artistry. And so I just really started getting into it and found this company in London called Mr. Jones Watches, who design these they manufacture these artist designed watches. And I was pining after their watches and got a watch or two of theirs for myself, and was looking at their website for a couple months. And finally, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to write them. And so I crafted an email and sent it off. And in a day or two, I had an email back from the owner of the company. His name is Crispin. And basically, I introduced myself and said, I'd love to work with you. And he wrote back, long story short, looked at your portfolio. We'd love to work with you too. So that was the genesis for that first watch that I did, which was called Step Right Up. And that watch broke their company sales records in terms of sellout time. So the way Mr. Jones Watches works is they produce limited edition runs of their watches, typically in 100 count runs. And that is offered, they're purchased, and they sell out after a particular time. And if there is enough demand, then typically they will re-release that design into their permanent collection. So that first watch broke their company sellout record. I think it sold out in 2 hours, if I'm remembering correctly.
Wow.
That was in 2020, in August 2020. And then August of 2021, we released my second design with them, which is called Ricochet. So maybe I should back up a second. The first watch, Step Right Up, was a depiction of like a carnival shooting gallery. Mm-hmm. And so you see this like, fair with a stand and a guy with, one of those air rifles shooting at targets. But the targets that are moving around in this, rotary fashion are the hours up top and the minutes down below. The second watch I did is called Ricochet, and it depicts these 3 robot characters playing a pinball game, and the score reels in the back glass show the time. And that second watch I did broke my first company sellout record. I think that one sold out in about half an hour or so.
Wow.
All 100 watches were gone. And I haven't mentioned this publicly yet, but around the start of the year, we will be re-releasing Ricochet. So nice. People can look out for that. Maybe by the time this airs, it will be available in their permanent collection.
All right. Well, it was really awesome talking to you about the watches and the neons and stuff. I really wanted to say thank you very much for this interview. This concludes the second part of the interview, and check out the watches and the neon and stuff. And again, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Jeremy. This is a really fun time. I had a great time chatting with you.
You bet. Me too.